Three receivers right, Garrett Wilson solo left, Rodgers in the shotgun. Takes the snap, four-man rush. Lobs one left, into the end zone for Garrett Wilson. Oh! One-handed catch, incredible! Did he get 2 feet down? Oh. He did not, out of the back of the end zone. He made an incredible catch.
Wow.
One foot down.
Something.
His knee may have hit before his hand did.
His shin or his body part there.
An incredible touchdown catch by Garrett Wilson as he got the shin down in the back of the end zone. He makes his second one-handed touchdown catch of the night, and the Jets have the lead.
Ooh, Garrett Wilson. Is that the play that turns around the Jets season? They at least turned around Thursday Night Football. That was Bob Wischusen and Anthony Becht on WAXQ. I am Gregg Rosenthal here in the garage for NFL Daily. And yes, joining me on this show, Seth Payne, former Houston Texans legend, and now one of the best. Why are you laughing? Why are you laughing, Seth?
That's what the NFL calls all the retired players legends, which just so devalues that term like every.
Okay. You know, a good
thank you,
defensive lineman.
Yeah. That was a plugger. I tell you what, that was hell.
I know.
That was everything
this is the
Thursday
risk.
Night Football promises to be and delivered on.
This is the risk. Yes, and yes, you can catch Seth if you're in Houston. You know him as the co-host on Payne and Pendergast, and he does a great job. One of the best out there on the local radio in the country. And it's always a risk with these Thursday nights. You get on a guest that's kind of leaning one way or another, and frankly, it wouldn't have mattered if you were on the Jets or the Texans side. The first half of this game was ugly, but it woke up after halftime. You didn't know which way it was going to go. Just the way this season has gone, you figured the Jets would find a way to lose it in the fourth quarter and the Texans would find a way to win. But that play, Garrett Wilson doing his best Odell Beckham impression, and yes, it was different in many ways, but it was also a special catch by Garrett Wilson on Kwame Lassiter. They review it, they call it a touchdown, and they end up winning this game 21-13 over the Texans. You're shaking your head about my comp to Odell Beckham.
I didn't. No. It was a beautiful catch. I'm just now appreciating it. Like, having watched the highlight again, and it just in the moment, as soon as I saw that there was any hint of the shin potentially being down, I just knew it. At that point, I can't remember, was that before or after the Texans made the field goal but got the penalty and advanced? But then missed the field goal. Okay,
that's before it. It was a crazy fourth quarter. Yes,
it was a crazy game. So the Jets scored 21 points. Really, they scored 28 because Malachi Corley dropped the ball 3 centimeters from the goal line. I said at the beginning of this game, it felt like a game that was going to be decided by who committed the fewest catastrophes. And by the second half, I think what I said before this game in our pregame show was don't be the team that allows it to click for the Jets, for Aaron Rodgers to figure it out, to get Davante Adams going, to really start to see the best version of Garrett Wilson. And they did all that in the second half. And you especially, Wade Phillips had said, Wade Phillips tweeted out that it's hard to beat Rodgers when he knows what you're doing. And, I know immediately people are going to take that as like some kind of an insult to DeMeco Ryans or anything. This is what those old quarterbacks do. They figured it out in the fourth quarter. He knew he was going to have Jalen Petrie, the safety / nickelback / nickel linebacker, manned up on Davante Adams, and he took advantage of it and he hit it. And just all credit to Aaron Rodgers. He was, I don't want to say vintage Aaron Rodgers, but he was clicking. He figured out he uses the hard count really well to diagnose what the defense is doing. And he just made some clutch plays out there. And for the Texans, this is kind of like a lot of the issues that we've seen bubbling beneath the surface, but they kept winning. but now it's all come home to roost. This was the poor offensive line played, big chunk plays on defense. They've been playing like a 500 team in a lot of ways, but they've managed to win some close games. But this was it's worse than 500 when you lose to a 2-win football team.
Yeah, I'm with you, and we'll dive deep into the Texans. I want to take advantage of your expertise, your knowledge, your pain in this moment. We're
all the legend stuff. Yeah,
no, just open up your heart and really find out what's happening. But let's give Rodgers some love, because you're right. When you said, was this almost a vintage Rodgers game? I'm thinking, all right, what are you smoking? He was 7 for 14 for 32 yards in the first half. But you're right. After halftime, I forget, they only had 3 drives. They scored a touchdown on all 3 of them. And to Wade Phillips' point about figuring out what you're doing, I actually think he had a decent idea for part of the first half. I mean, he saw when they were going press coverage on those third downs, and in general, he had the one-on-ones, and he was trying to hit him, but he just couldn't execute. So, yeah, he was averaging 2.5 yards per attempt in the first half. They couldn't do anything. They fumbled one time, the Corley fumble. So they were going in for a score there. But their other 5 drives in the first half, they punted on either a 3-and-out or a 4-and-out every single time. And the difference, I think, between this Texans team and the one you would have seen a year ago is the Texans would have built up a lead in that scenario. So you can blame it a little bit on DeMeco Ryans' defense in the second half, but it's also on the offense for not taking advantage of a Jets offense that was really struggling in the first half. But in the second half, you're right. Garrett Wilson is a special player. That 2 touchdowns, 2 one-handed touchdowns. He goes 9 for 90. He won the matchups. It was with Petrie. It was with Lassiter. They were picking on Stingley for a couple drives. He struggled in recent weeks. Davante Adams goes out for a section of that fourth quarter after he had a really nice catch. Was that on?
That was Lassiter. Yeah, Lassiter stumbled at the jump.
Yeah, with a nice break.
Yeah.
That was on a 4th down, and he got hurt on that play. They check him for a concussion. And let's actually listen to the call, because the throw to Adams on 3rd down, where again he gets single coverage, is the one that really put the game away.
Shotgun, Aaron Rodgers. 3 receivers right. Garrett Wilson solo left. To his left, Breece Hall takes the snap. Here comes the blitz. Lobs one down the right side. Davante Adams. He's got it at the 10, 5, and it's a Jet touchdown. Aaron Rodgers hooks up with his old buddy Davante Adams right down the chimney, and the Jets have a 2-score lead.
Yeah, and if you're not watching on YouTube, that was 3 minutes to go to make it 21-10 on a 3rd and 3 on an all-out blitz. It absolutely worked, Seth.
It's that's one thing. The Texans defense has done some things really well, but in terms of like standing up to the test versus a quarterback who is good for at least a half of football, they don't have enough guys that can really genuinely play man. So like they've got Jalen Petrie was a safety that they moved to nickel, but he's a better nickel linebacker and doing all that kind of stuff than he is just being in man coverage on people. So they've got the Lions next week. So, I'm sorry, man. I would try to play it down the middle and be professional since I'm on your fancy podcast for the NFL.com folks and everything. But my God, they've got Detroit. I'm not an NFC guy. How's Detroit this year? Are they better than the Jets?
You do have another primetime game though right after that, which is against the Cowboys, which, you know, as you know, I don't need to tell you, but for our list, I mean, that's a big time rivalry game. That's shaping up as a big game because yes, the Texans could be licking their wounds there at 6-4, and they haven't been as good as their record all year. And the thing about tonight's performance that makes me most worried is what's made me most frustrated and worried about all the season. It's the slow, shook factor of CJ Stroud. That's just, it's happening every week. I believe in CJ Stroud so much. I said like 3 or 4 weeks ago, if I could just have one quarterback moving forward, including age and contract and everything, it's like, I mean, yeah, of course Patrick Mahomes, like, yeah, I mean, I guess so, yeah. But considering age,
to him, Greg.
No, I'm just saying, considering age, like Stroud is so young.
Yeah.
Like, actually, I just love Stroud. And I thought he played so well despite what was happening around him for 5-6 weeks this season. But the constant pressure, I think, is starting to get to him. He was sacked 8 times in this game. The pressure rate was 45 to 50%. But the times where he was protected in this game, look, he doesn't have his main receivers out there. He did look a little panicky in a way that I've never seen out of Stroud that makes me believe what you would expect to happen. Eventually, all this pressure, the accumulation, I think is maybe starting to get to him. And that really makes me mad at your offensive coordinator.
Well, Bobby Slowick's getting a lot of heat in Houston, like increasingly so, and I don't anticipate my show starts at 6 a.m. Central Time. I might not.
Like
I'm going to do like a 5-hour YouTube stream. So we should do the Seth Payne YouTube. It's awesome. It's legendary.
It is really great. Everyone check out Seth on YouTube, and hell, listen to the radio show too. Just stream it.
If you're into misery. Yeah, go ahead and just misery listen to it in the morning because it's going to be miserable. It's a concern. Look, I played with David Carr, and I was talking with one of my old teammates, Gary Walker, about this the other day when we were at Andre Johnson's ring presentation last week's game.
Humble brag.
David Carr, no big deal. David Carr, just a bunch of legends hanging around. Andre, me, just legends, same status. So, but we were talking about David Carr, and David Carr, you'd watch him in practice, and David Carr, back in 2002, 2003, he'd make some incredible throws in practice, but he wasn't playing behind a good offensive line. I think the clock in his head got permanently destroyed, and you worry about these guys when they're in their formative years if they're constantly under pressure. And what you're talking about, CJ, being cool under pressure, that early in the game, remember he ducked away from Hassan Reddick, kind of shook Hassan Reddick off, and you could see from the close-up his eyes never dropped. He had his eyes downfield the entire time. So it's not like he's gun shy, but in a lot of this, I hate to make it as simple as, well, man, things will be different if Nico Collins comes back next week from his hamstring injury. But Nico does make a huge difference in not just the deep threat, but the stuff over the middle. You can connect on a slant over the middle to Nico, and he breaks 3 tackles, and it's 20, 30 yards pretty consistently. And he just doesn't have anybody. There are no big receivers right now in the receiving core. And even once Nico went down, you had Tank and you had Stephon Diggs, but smaller guys. But which I think CJ could still manage pretty well with, but he cannot trust the pass protection. And we've probably talked about the left guard more in the last few weeks than we have in over a decade. And we were wondering, like, nobody wants to hear about it. I was actually thinking about you. I told you because your son's a Texans fan now. And I was like, hey, I don't know how much people are talking about this before the game, but left guard is actually kind of a big deal. Lo and behold, there you go. I apologize to your son.
Yeah, I would say you ruined his Halloween, but he's a 9-year-old. Halloween is Christmas. It's a close second to Christmas. A Texans loss did not ruin him. In fact, as Aaron Rodgers was throwing that touchdown pass to Devontae Adams, he had just gotten back from trick-or-treating, and he's out on the porch passing out the candy to the kids that are still coming by and having the time of his life. He's not going to be brought down on Halloween. We're walking on the way to school this morning, and he said, this is the best time of year. Well, Christmas number 1, Halloween, my birthday, is second. So, a 9-year-old's not going to get it ruined, but he would be. And I hate to think of the Texans fans who, I'm not going to say they were happy about an injury, but you did lose your left guard tonight, right? Yeah.
I had quite a few. I had actual DMs from people kind of like expressing how guilty they felt over that situation.
Kenyon Green, too, who is the... I get confused because there's multiple... Greens
there's 2 K Greens that play left guard. There's Kenyon Green and Kendrick Green. Kendrick is the scrappy little dude that came in and played left guard. He was a center in Pittsburgh, and he got demoted to fullback the next year, his second year in Pittsburgh. And like they'd given up on him as an offensive lineman. He came to Houston and actually played guard last year before he got injured, and I thought was way more impressive than I expected him to be. So this week, we were wondering, all right, Kenyon Green got benched in the game last week. Jarrett Patterson, the Notre Dame kid, came in for him and played pretty well for one series, then he got injured, and we were expecting Kendrick Green to come in. But they put Kenyon Green back out there, and then they rolled him out.
Okay, this is for your 5-hour YouTube. This is too deep
I apologize.
down the rabbit
Okay,
hole.
this is what you need to remember. If you want to, like Jets fans, if you're watching this, enjoy us being miserable for a second with stupidity. Okay, last year in New York was when C.J. Stroud was concussed by Quinnen freaking Williams by poor left guard play. So we were terrified going into this game, and that's what happened.
Wait,
so
you
offensive
should've
line
been.
issue. Yeah.
I hope you didn't get distracted, but yeah, like I was picking up the next gen stats pass rush numbers as you were talking there to just see like the offensive linemen, the pressures, and I saw these stats and this is a murder scene. Will McDonald had 9 pressures, 2 quick pressures, so that's under 2.5 seconds. Quinnen Williams had 7, despite 14 double teams. Despite getting double teamed almost every snap, he has 7 pressures, 4 quick ones. So up the middle that quick. You've woken up Javon Kinlaw. I mean, Laramie Tunsil gave up a big sack in a big spot. Oh. So, there were 3 different times where Stroud took a sack on 3rd down. When it was 3rd and long and they were in field goal range, he kept making those field goals longer. One of them Fairbairn missed. One of them he hit. And this is where I do want to get to. You're right, Stroud. I don't think it's something that's going to last. I don't think it's going to be David Carr. No offense to David Carr. But first of all, I don't expect this pressure to continue forever. But I also think players go through streaks where maybe their eyes get down, but Stroud has shown us who he is already as a pro, and they'll get it corrected at some point. But whether it's perfect this season or not, I don't know. I want to think about 2 little segments of the game. After Corley dropped that ball, it just felt like a big moment in the game. He has Mechie going over the middle, Stroud does, after another run pass sequence, which they had a number of those in this game, and he was just about to deliver it, and he's getting hit low by Quinnen Williams. And that's probably on the protection, and Stroud can't make the good play. Then later in the game, after they make a field goal to make it a 1-point game, it's mid-4th quarter, it's going to be 14-13. Jets are getting the ball back. Then they call a penalty on the Jets, unnecessary roughness. They move the ball inside the 10. This is maybe the key sequence in the entire game. Joe Mixon, who starts out the game great. His fantasy owners, as long as they weren't watching throughout, they're happy. 106 yards for a touchdown. But all of that was in the first half. Yeah. After halftime, even late second quarter, it's 1 yard, 2 yard, 1 yard. It dried up for them. And they're at the 7 or 8 yard line, and I feel like they're panicky about the pass rush, and they go run, pass, like 1 yard. I think they might have lost a yard, like 1 yard, 2 yard, or 2 yard negative.
It's 3 yards, no gain.
Okay, see, I'm just making things
Mechie.
up.
Right? No, it's all the same. It's all.
And
the
so
same.
then the third and goal is the one I kind of wanted to get to. That was the one where that was a little panicky because he actually did get protected for once, and Mechie does kind of come open on that play, and he seemed in between, and understandably was just like, I got to get rid of this ball, and he had Mechie open, and that ends up being a really big play because then Fairbairn hits it off. He doinks one from a chip shot range. Jets go on for the killer touchdown, and that's really your sequence. And then on that very last drive, not to beat a dead horse, but they're just trying to get a score late, and he's missing some throws that it seemed like they were open for him. I'm like, oh, that is not the C.J. Stroud that I know, finishing 11 for 30 for 191 on the night.
Yeah, and it's a hodgepodge of things. The offensive line and the pass protection in general, I think, is the easiest thing to point the finger at. It's the most identifiable. I think that And I hate to overly simplify it, but I think that Nico Collins' presence last year was probably underrated in how much and how good that offense, or at least how much progress that offense made, and how good CJ did. So it should make a difference. I don't know how much it helps and fixes the pass protection issues, but also some of the there's too many times where it doesn't seem like CJ has answers for the blitz. And whether it's just him not not going to the hots quick enough, if it's the actual play design, at various times I could point the finger. I mean, all of that eventually comes back to the offensive coordinator. And I think, Bobby Slowick, who just got a bunch of interest and a whole lot of buzz about being a head coach, the entire offseason, we were wondering, all right, well, he had a really promising performance with a rookie quarterback, but he hasn't shown that he can create a complete offense. And a lot of that came down to, I talked to you before the season began. I felt like even people that were gushing about the Texans offense nationally were kind of ignoring the fact that they could not run the ball last year, even when it should have been easy to run the ball. And now with Mixon, I mean, so much of it, even though the blocking has improved, so much of it is just Mixon being a younger Mixon. Like they said on the broadcast, it looks like he's 5 or 6 years younger than he was. He's able to take imperfect blocking, and blocking that for a lot of running backs, it's a tackle for a loss or no gain. He figures out a way to go get 10 or 12 yards. But by the second half, the Jets figured it out, and the Jets defense started to look a lot more like the Jets defense from the last couple of years. So they're simply not a complete offense with or without Nico Collins. You really get no feel that they can use the run game and the pass game to complement each other or to balance each other out. They can't run when they need to run. It's just it's been a mediocre offense in terms of scoring. I think they were 14th in scoring headed into this game. And that's pretty much what you said. They can't score in the second half. So that was no surprise to Texans fans that they couldn't score in the second half. They've been miserable in the second half.
They're 20th in DVOA on offense going into tonight, which is crazy. And I think to your point about Slowick, Stroud's as composed, as impressive a young quarterback as I've ever seen. So I think he's got great players to work with, and it was a little less about the scheme last year and more just about, they built the right offense around him, but excellent players. You have an all-pro left tackle. You have a dynamite quarterback. You have Nico Collins. You have Tank Dell. Now, Tank Dell went 6 for 126 tonight. I think that was encouraging. For all this honking I've done about Stroud, like the touchdown drive that they had, he had 2 of the best throws you'll ever see. One to Robert Woods on the run, one to Tank Dell, and then he had the 50-yarder to Tank Dell in the second half, which is just an absolutely insane throw. So the talent's there, the excitement's there. It's not like I think this thing can't get fixed. I'm glad you mentioned the blitz, because Jeff Ulbrich deserves some credit for when he dialed it up. This has been a bad Jets defense over the last 3 weeks since he took over, so they get a little credit here for getting the win. Stroud goes 0 for 5 against the blitz when he threw it, and that says it all. I'm not sure how many sacks he took. I believe it was 2 sacks on those plays too.
37. Felt like 37 sacks.
So he did not complete a pass against the blitz. And Hassan Reddick makes a difference for this team and in this game. Like, C.J. Stroud was strip sacked in the first half. They had the ball inside the 10 or inside the 15 early in the game. And that was from a Quinnen Williams pressure on your boy Green.
Yep.
But also on the other side, Clemens collapsing the pocket. Reddick was collapsing the pocket all night. He ended up getting a sack. And then C.J. Stroud was trying to step up, but he couldn't step up because there was Quinnen Williams in the middle. So Will McDonald, they had guys step up, and whatever the vision for whoever the Jets are going to be, yes, it's against this Texans offensive line who have looked bad against everyone, but so have the Patriots and the Texans. The Jets pass rush looked terrible last week, just 5 days ago against the Patriots. So it's a pretty big step in the right direction for the Jets to take what's a struggling unit and actually make a difference on defense. It's been a while, and they're going to have a long weekend, and they're going to feel like, okay, maybe we can build from this.
I think from the Texans' perspective, going against this team and the Jets, I was saying all week, look, they're 2-6, great. There's no looking past the Jets, because all you have to do is look at the depth chart. And if there's anybody on the Texans that was looking at the Jets depth chart and thought, 2-6 football team, like you're dead inside. You're dead inside, or you're high all the time. They've got players all over the place. The story was that they were. What's that?
I just said that sounds like a fun combo. Sorry for
dead and high. Well, usually it goes in the other order, but like there's no let ups versus this team in a primetime game. You're going against Aaron freaking Rodgers. I don't care what he's looked like this year so far. You're going against Garrett Wilson had 300-yard games in the previous 4 games. You're going against Devontae Adams, who hadn't done much, but he's Devontae Adams and he's just been on the team for a couple weeks. Last week the Jets looked against the Patriots like they didn't know they couldn't get a playoff. Last week the Jets burned 3 timeouts in the first quarter to avoid delay of games. They got a delay of game in the fourth quarter. And in the first quarter of this game, you had your chance to pounce, right? The Jets were doing all kinds of Jets-type things, except the Texans matched them pace for pace with idiotic, weird, stupid things to do. So, I think if I were a Jets fan, you don't want to read too much into a win like this, but that second half, man, they looked a lot like that depth chart should look when they're playing actual football.
Yeah, they play the card. It was funny. Al Michaels was great on this. Well, I wouldn't say he was great on this broadcast overall because, like, when the game's bad, it was just so low energy. They're just every once in a while, I just think, does the NFL ever watch this and like want announcers who are a little more excited about the game? Because they're always just so complaining when it's a bad game. And the MetLife was dead. They're actually chanting.
Dead. I know.
They were actually chanting "Sell the team" as they were going to halftime, and there was booze and Al and Kirk. But when he was talking, he is great in certain aspects too. Though Al was saying how Aaron Rodgers, when he met with him, just went through this whole thing, and Al was sort of rolling his eyes as he was talking. He was very convincing, talking about, well, they'll just beat the Cardinals, and they're going to be a Western team going east, and then it'll be a short week, and you got the Colts, and then you go to a bye, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, you can kind of make the case there. They can win any of these games. None of them are locks, and so the Jets could get back into it at 3-6. The problem is, are they that much like more likely to win any of these games than lose? They all seem about like 50-50 propositions. As much as the Texans have probably been like a 4-4 type of team instead of 6-2 coming in, I think the Jets have been closer to a 500 team, and they just keep losing these heartbreaking close games. And so it'll probably balance out, but that still just means you're a 500 team. It doesn't mean you're about to go on some great run.
I think it's a big one to win this game tonight for the Jets. This is the very moment in the season when professionalism can start to wane. If the team is just dead in the water, then your younger players or your less professional players kind of start to let go of the rope a little bit and just let the water take them down. They start staying out a little later. They're not in the weight room as early. So that's a big boost at this point in the season. I think for the Texans, the trend has just been kind of a steady degradation from week 1 until now, to where things look like they're starting to catch up with some of their deficiencies. The Texans tackling, even on defense, as good as they've been on defense, the first few weeks they were really sound tacklers. Then you saw tonight lots of missed tackles, lots of poor angles, lots of just giving guys that look like they do on the depth chart the chance to break long runs. You know what, though? I got to blame Bill Belichick a little bit, I think.
Oh.
I didn't need Bill Belichick going criticizing Hassan Reddick and then Hassan Reddick firing back on him on social media. I don't know if you saw that.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't see the firing back, no.
Oh, no. Belichick just had mentioned on the McAfee show or on one of the 19 outlets he's on that Hassan Reddick was just kind of running past the quarterback last week. So Hassan Reddick said something like, Belichick sounds like he's just sitting at home and bored. He needs a job. And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, he's probably making more money than you at his current jobs, but he showed up tonight. I mean, yeah,
so did Belichick on one of those underdog ads, though. I mean, he's cashing them checks, so they're both doing well.
Put a pin in the ad thing for a second, because as far as Hassan Reddick goes, and that defensive line in general versus the Texans' offensive line, I'm so tired. I'm so tired of people. We've got this propaganda machine for the offensive line in Houston, where people keep trying to point out how good the actual offensive line actually is, and they'll bring up the PFF grades, the Pro Football Focus grades of the offensive tackles, and I'm like, listen, in pass protection, they've generally been pretty good, but I don't usually play the PFF game. But if you're going to start the PFF game, pull up their overall grades, because both those offensive tackles are graded like 20th and 28th in PFF. So if you're going to play the PFF game, don't cherry pick. It's been a bad offensive line. As far as the ads, okay, they tailor those ads during the Amazon broadcast, don't they? We don't all see the same commercials. I think they base it on your purchase history. Because I wanted to buy every damn thing I saw in the commercial tonight.
Yeah, the Amazon ones are crazy.
Yeah.
It's a lot of, I'm trying to think what they do. Yeah, they put it up on the screen to just buy it. It's a lot of Target.
Well, no, not even, but also just like the actual conventional TV type commercials. We're not all seeing the same commercials. Because I've never wanted, I changed car insurance companies last month. I saw like every other ad was like even more so than a normal football broadcast. An Oura Ring, which now I want, one of these fitness trackers. I saw it and I want it now, and I've never seen an ad for it before.
No, I didn't see that.
I didn't see that. You probably saw a lot of toy commercials and stuff, and I saw 0 toy commercials. Yeah.
That's
how they get you, man.
I got the kids. Actually, while we're talking social media, let's actually put up a couple other tweets. I just was enjoying the Seth Payne performance on Twitter in the first half of this game. He writes, sauce tackles like the elite golfer he's focused on becoming.
Oh, those were the days, weren't they? Oh, back when I was talking smack. Yeah, that was.
You're right, though. Sauce Gardner had one drive in this game where I think he had a penalty, a missed tackle. He gave up a big play. It was crazy.
This is how it went.
And then he left hurt for a minute. It was just like, wow, it was a tough
missed
drive.
a tackle to Dalton Schultz. Then he got beat by the 47-year-old Robert Woods on a triple move, and then he got beat by John. Well, he had to hold John Mechie because John Mechie was about to beat him, and then he got injured as he held him, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a brutal drive for him. A couple of young cornerbacks who've been playing pretty rough. Let's see another tweet from Seth Payne. Those Jets fans have to pay a fee for grocery bags in New York, so you know they mean it.
Yeah, reference to the guys wearing the bags over their heads. They're imitating the Aints.
Good follow. What is it? At Seth C. Payne?
At Seth C. Payne, yeah.
There we go.
I quit Twitter for a while, and then I realized,
no, it's fine.
People started paying me to tweet. So I'm like, all right, I'm back in it, baby.
People are paying you to tweet?
Yeah, I get sponsored posts now. It's
wow.
Yeah.
No, they're
I do the little hashtag ad. Don't worry, Greg. I'm not going to Amazon you. Yeah.
I gotta get in on that. Those were
fantastic.
fantastic.
I'll send you some info afterwards. Yeah.
Okay. Look, should we listen to the Malachi Corley drop just to see? Was it worth it?
Yeah, those were the days too.
The pain of the Jets as they were going in for the potential touchdown. Let's listen.
The lone setback is Breece Hall. An end around to Malachi Corley. Gets a block, gets to the 20, to the 15, to the 10. Pylon! That's a Jet touchdown! Wow! The rookie makes an appearance and finds the end zone. Malachi Corley, his first Jet touchdown, and New York takes the lead.
Ruling on the field of a touchdown is under further review.
I'm not sure for what.
Yeah.
Well, Malachi Corley, it turns out, makes a rookie mistake. He dropped the ball before he broke the plane of the end zone, celebrating his touchdown.
Oh, that poor kid, man.
That was only his second NFL touch. His first touchdown. First of all, hold on to that ball. He just let it roll right out the back of the whole end zone. No one was paying attention to that ball. If the Texans had picked that up and ran with it, who knows? I mean, I don't even.
You know what I would tell Malachi Corley? This is what I would tell Malachi Corley. Listen, Malachi. First of all, killer name. Awesome. Good job. Second, I was on the field when a young Plaxico Burress, in his first game ever, got a reception over the middle, untouched by defenders, went to the ground, stood up, and spiked the ball. and we recovered it. And Plaxico Burress would go on to have a largely unblemished career, a productive career after that on the field. So don't worry. He never did. Plaxico Burress never did another stupid thing on the field. Yeah. So you'll be cool.
And he's
in New York. Register your firearms, Malachi.
Yeah. You know what he also did, though, which I feel like he doesn't get enough pop for? score the goddamn game-winning touchdown to beat the only undefeated team in NFL history in the Super Bowl. It's kind of weird that the Plaxico Burress just absolutely destroying Ellis Hobbs off the line of scrimmage gets forgotten in that moment.
Right. But these are, I do
just
feel,
saying.
It occurred to me as Malachi Corley did that, or is that we realized that Malachi Corley did that. I feel like you should get one mulligan in a career. Like for something like that, if somehow you can just say, all right, this is once in a career, you get to a mulligan on something like when you pull a Leon Lett, or like I would say Anthony Richardson pulling himself out of the game because he was tired.
Come on, running backs do that all the time. He just had thrown like a 300-pounder off him.
Running backs do it all the time, and that's the point. It's that running backs get rotated in and out. The point being that in the 100-plus year history of the NFL, nobody can remember another time a quarterback has done that. So, and by the way, he threw off. So when Anthony Richardson took himself out of the game, he threw Foley Fatukasi fell off his back, which was impressive that Anthony Richardson did that. 300-plus pound defensive lineman. But he didn't even make it to the line of scrimmage. Like, it wasn't like a Lamar Jackson 49-yard run or anything. Like he got sacked on that play, and then was too tired to go back in.
This is fair. This
unconscionable.
This is why you need the legend perspective.
Yeah.
Because I'm just a podcaster, and I was like, oh, it's not so bad. And then you hear the actual Colts team captain, Ryan Kelly, like basically saying what you just said after the game. I was like, oh, I guess I'm wrong on this one, and that's why you are a legend.
You know what? Okay, so no, this is one of those things where I learned long ago. I never want to be that guy that says like, you don't know because you didn't play the game. I hate that. I hate that when athletes do that, because your job, if you're in broadcasting, is to use your experience to explain why it's different. So I got a lot of questions from people this week, like, hey, Seth, why is it that big a deal? So I had to calm myself and not be a meathead that says, like, because that's the way it is. Listen, quarterbacks, that's your offense. And if you're out there, it's because you need to be out there directing the show. And if you just had a physically grueling play, then if your coordinator knows what the hell he's doing, he's not going to call a run play on the next play. But this is what's being lost in it. Greg, it was 3rd and goal. It was 3rd and goal when they were down by 10. So imagine being a quarterback in a 3rd and goal situation, down by 10, deciding that, like, whew, I don't feel like I'm 100%. I need a breather here before we kick a field goal.
Poor young man.
But anyway,
I'm glad. You added a lot of context, frankly, that we have a daily show. It's in the name, and yet we didn't have a lot of this context previously. So again, that's why you are a legend. And look, you were very self-effacing when I called you that early on, but it's like I've heard people say this, like, this is like the thing about like young white guys, just when they hang around, like, you can just be like someone can walk in, you amongst your friends, it's just like, oh, it's Bob, it's the legend Bob. And it's just like, wait, who's Bob? He's just like, oh, he's in accounting. Yeah. That's, it's just like,
oh, okay, yeah, I'll take that. Yeah, he's a legend. Yeah, all right, yeah.
That's you. Seth Payne, check out his YouTube channel. Seth Payne on YouTube, and Payne and Pendergrass. And you're starting that show soon, so we will send you on your merry way.
Oh, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, man.
We will be back for our pick show. We got it with Cynthia Freeland on Friday afternoon, and then we do the whole thing once again with our Sunday recap show. And look, when the Jets are just giving their fans some hope, might turn into false hope, and it's getting into November. Football is back.
Texans-Jets, AFC Championship. Yes.